Welcome back for another episode of Strive for 25. Joel Farrell here, and looking forward to sharing with you our guest today. To another episode of the Strive for 25 podcast. Joel Farrell here, and this episode is going to be me solo, and I want to dig into a couple things. First thing, we're going to dig into the results equation on how some people are able to get to their goal and reach the results that they want to get to. And also a little bit about the savings equation. So we're just going to dig into it. So on the Instagram channel, we had shared pretty much a real story, loosely tied to a client of mine on the mortgage side. And this person went down the path of building a portfolio of real estate. And when we dug into their situation from the very beginning, they, were not saving any money and making a decent wage, early on in their career in a trade field, and dug into their budget, and there really just wasn't anything to cut. And, car, gas, groceries, student loans, rent, literally there wasn't anything to cut. They were just getting by. So how does this person go from literally saving no money to then 7-8 years later being on their way to be able to build a multi-million-dollar portfolio? Well, for this person, some things changed in their life, and I'll get into this a little bit later. But Patrick Bet David, this is a gentleman that's got a massive audience, millions of subscribers, and he's a CEO of an insurance company. And he's a public speaker and just a lot of good content. And in one of the videos that I was watching recently, and I'll share this a little bit later, where he just talks about vision and, how someone's actually able to make a transformation. So this person, when we dug into their situation, we talk about the savings equation. So income minus expenses equals your savings. So talk about budgets, talk about cutting expenses. And again, there's only so much you can do to cut. And also the time that you spend on it, because again, the average person only has so much time in the day to be able to actually output energy towards working on something to solve problems, to be able to actually have active energy towards, accomplishing something, rather than that passive type of thing where you have a long day and you're just, coasting into your evening. And then you fast forward the clock and you spend time on your budget expenses. There's only so much return on your time that you're going to be able to get. So the other part of the equation is the income part. You spend time and energy on trying to generate more income. Over time, if you keep going for weeks, months, years, that time that you spend could actually be exponential. So for this person, they were, working their day. We were able to identify an opportunity to be able to find a side hustle working on the weekends. And then this person, they were doing some smart home installation and started out making some, $100 here, a couple $100 there. And then before you know it, they're making, over $1,000 and then $2,000 a month as they got better at their job and, were able to secure more opportunities with this company. So they went from saving zero, and then they were making a little extra money. So $40,000 is what this person was making. That's $3,333 a month gross. And so this person was able to generate an extra $1,500, $2,000, depending on the month and when things were really busy. So on average, let's just say $1,250 that they were able to generate in extra income per month. So you do, the net pay on that, and deduct out taxes and whatnot. So $1,250 becomes $1,000. So now they have an extra $1,000 of net income. So, you're talking about roughly 25% extra income that they were able to pull in. And so for this person, they were able to then take that $1,000 and just directly put it into savings. So they were able to figure out a way to be able to continue to live off of that base wage on their main job, and then take that $1,000 extra and put it directly into savings, and then build that up over a period of time. And then they use that to be able to purchase their first property. So what was unique about this person is that they said, hey, I want to do this. I want to use this money to be able to purchase a new property. And they didn't deviate from the plan. They literally stuck to the plan, put that savings on autopilot, and did not touch it. They were able to figure out a way to live off of what their basic wage was. And, the basics on this, I mean, we all know what we want to do. We all know that, hey, you save money, you invest it, and in time, things are going to work out. Your money will grow, and you'll be able to have more money and potentially retire, and et cetera. That's, we all know that, right? But the proof is in the pudding, right? Implementation, execution, that's where most of us fall off the wagon. We know what we need to do, but we all just aren't able to make it happen. That's part of the human condition. And so, for this person, they saw value. They saw a vision. They saw a pathway to be able to build something for themselves, to build wealth, to build, something bigger than themselves, rather than building someone else's dream. They're trying to build their dream. They're putting all this work and effort into building something for themselves. So that way, at some point down the road, they can take the foot off the gas pedal, so to speak, and not have to kill themselves, right? We say on this channel all the time, when your why is strong enough, the how figures itself out. Because, you work 70 hours a week, at some point you're going to get burnt out, right? You can only do that for so long. That's just, we all know that. But, Tim Grover talks about this, and we've said this many times on the channel. When you're grinding and you're grinding and you're grinding and you're grinding, at some point you're just left with dust. And that's no way to live. No one wants to be left like that and burnt out and discouraged. But when you're forming something, when you're building something, and you see the light at the end of the tunnel, and when you have those rough days and you're able to channel that anxiety or frustration or exhaustion and take that opportunity to turn it into a positive, hey, this is an amazing day, that almost like the gratitude, but you're also reframing. This is an opportunity to get better, an opportunity to take one more step forward towards my vision and my goal. Opportunity, turning the negative into a positive kind of a thing. And when we do that and we get better at that and do it over and over, you start to rewire your brain to how you look at things, and these natural biological responses that we have of exhaustion and stress, which stress can chronically can tear your body apart in terms of making you sick and wear you down. But when we intentionally over and over, day in, day out, turn these types of negative thoughts and turn them into positive thoughts and turn it into an opportunity, it literally rewires your brain. So why do I say that? Well, this person had a vision and knew where they wanted to go. And so if you don't know where we're trying to go and you're just working to be able to just survive and pay the bills, and you don't have this larger vision, it literally can send you in the wrong direction. And you may not be able to sustain that because you don't have that confidence. You don't have the wherewithal to know, where you're trying to go in the bigger picture. So I'm going to read this quote from Patrick Bet-David. So in this talk, he was talking about his kids, and he's got 4 kids, and all of different ages. And he said, I believe that one of my kids is going to become president, and he knows that the chances of this are very, very small. And he talks about casting a vision. And I'm thinking long term. When you have a vision long term that you're excited about, current issues don't stress you out. And goes on to say, mortgage rates are up, the Fed's doing this, blah, blah, blah. But when your vision is long term and you're excited about it, it becomes just a Tuesday, just a regular Tuesday, because you know where you're trying to go. And that long term vision, pushes you. That it alleviates the short-term stresses that are in the moment. So part of the reason why I bring that up is because, when we talk about the stair-step method and talk about, real estate as an opportunity to be able to build wealth, and if it overflows into other things, to be able to build wealth. But specifically real estate, in this case, we're talking about the stair-step method, because this person literally went from zero savings. And then when we do the math, they inject this additional income into the table, and they were able to structure their life to where that extra income was literally going to savings. Now they have this additional lane where they're building something. They're building something. So they bought the first house, lived there for a couple of years. And you've heard me say this before, over and over. Saved up, bought the next house, and turned the old one into a rental, and continued to build and continue to build their skill set to generate more income to be able to continue to move this train forward and buy the third one and the fourth one. And at that point, they've got 3 rentals, and they're going to continue to build. And so when you've got this lane, this train that's on a lane that's building something, and it's building something for you instead of against you or for somebody else, or you're just getting by and not seeing any traction, that can be the difference between someone that continues the path and has the confidence to continue to build versus someone who's just getting by and living paycheck to paycheck. So there's another thing he talks about. He uses the term paradigm shift. We're hit with information all day, every day, with social media, TV, talking to coworkers, talking to family. But there's certain things that hit you, that you receive in, that have an impact, that change the way you think, that change everything in your life, because you're on a certain path. And if you're not where you want to be, you're not on the path that you want to be at, if you keep on going, you're going to keep going into the abyss, or keep going on this level playing. But certain things happen in your life, whether it be pain or struggle or a certain insight that just hits you in a certain way, or maybe it's this random thing that happens that you see success, like, oh, I can do that. Whatever these things are, he calls it a paradigm shift that changes the trajectory of your life. So the reason why I bring that up is because I've been thinking about some of the guests that we've had on the podcast. And it's interesting that a lot of the people we've had on have had these paradigm shifts, and these certain things that have happened in their lives then change their trajectory to get them to a certain level that now we're talking to them about their experience and their pathway, their journey to be able to get there. And I'm going to share a few of these with you. So we had GW Slaughter on, who's a business coach. And this is just me going off of memory. I should have written notes on this, but I didn't. He's got an unbelievable coaching business, impacting a lot of entrepreneurs' lives and helping them, coaching them to be able to help take their businesses to the next level. And he's a gentleman that served in the armed forces in Desert Storm, and he had some struggles in his life. I think he mentioned alcoholism, and got divorced, and had got to the point where he was having difficulty maintaining a relationship with his kids, and certain things happened, and he was able to turn the corner. And he mentioned gratitude is a philosophy that he built into his routine and built into his life, that really that was the one tipping the scale kind of a moment that changed the trajectory of his life. So that pain pushed him to want to be a better father and a better brother, son, family member, etc. And then also wanting to do better and build this business and have a massive impact on other people. Another one that comes to mind is Max Fisher. He's a commercial real estate gentleman in Arizona. And, in talking to him, one of the best quotes that I remember talking to him, and I don't know if we talked about it specifically on the podcast, but we talked about it ahead of time. And, he tweeted this as well on his Twitter account, talking about, putting in the work, making all the phone calls and the cold calls and the thank you letters and all the little things that you're supposed to do that we all know that we're supposed to do to be able to, if you're in the real estate world or sales world, to prospect and to build relationships and do the little things over time. All the things that are easy to do in theory, but easy to do, but also easy not to do. And I think that's, again, becomes the difference between the best and the rest. And there was something, that he said, that really caught my eye, that all that work, all that hard effort and consistency over years led to business. But what transcended that was the reputation as a grinder, as a hustler, was even more impactful because people remembered him and knew him. So when they saw his name again, yeah, that guy, he's gonna be the person that I want to work with because he's gonna follow through. And so, when I look back at his story, we didn't again talk too much on the podcast about his health stuff that he was dealing with, but in our previous conversations, I know he was going through a lot of stuff along the way that now he has to take, I think, 5 shots in a day. I think it was his pancreas or something along those lines, some issues that came up, previous, earlier in his life, and that, pain and struggle and knowing that, hey, shoot, I don't know how much time I have on this earth kind of a mentality. I'm going to maximize this time and have the most impact for myself, my family. And I just got a kid on the way. So, for him, just in talking to him, like I can see that as a pain point or a struggle they had overcome. And it just changed the trajectory of him wanting to have the most impact he can on other people. And then kind of going down the line here, and if I'm skipping anybody, I do apologize. This is just pure off the top of my head. Brian Tran, serial entrepreneur in San Francisco, 6 or 7 businesses. And he talked about, his parents coming over, and I'm blanking on which country. So I do apologize on that. But, they came to the United States, I think maybe in the 80s or so, and ended up purchasing a house. And in that market, you're talking about the average home right now is over $1 million. So that market's always going to be higher than the average. So, being able to purchase a home in that market, with just, regular Joe kind of wage, is definitely, a feat. And so that was something that I think motivated him along the way to be able to be somebody that was going to be able to provide and lead other people. I love talking to him about how he was able to build these other businesses. He started not with the business in mind, but the actual leader in mind that was going to lead that business. And I think that was a really interesting approach. Another person that comes to mind is a personal friend of mine, Duck Lee, who I grew up with. And this is somebody, really good in sales, always been top notch, everything he did in that regard. And, he was always the person that just really took the time to sit back. You know what? Like, I'm going to find the most efficient way to do this and excel. And he was very, good at that. And COVID is something that really hit him. He's a very extroverted, social butterfly type of personality. And so the lockdowns and having to stay and not be able to go visit and go to a bar and hang out with his friends and watch a basketball game. That's what we used to do. We're big NBA fans and we, go watch. Now I'm a big Warriors fan. So he's a Lakers fan, and if you further friends, are LeBron fans. And so we just love to go grab some wings and watch NBA basketball. And, when 2020 rolled around and COVID hit, he had 2 properties. And as we speak, he's got over 150 units. So he's scaled really fast. And for him, it was that isolation. It was that struggle. It just something clicked in him. I'm going to just go down this path and explore. And then just things clicked and he kept on going. So it was just, again, that paradigm shift happened. And I'm going to stop there. I could go on this, but for everybody that's out there, if you're not where you want to be, it doesn't matter where you are in your life. You could be 20, you could be 60, or anywhere in between. It doesn't mean that there's not an opportunity right here, right now, to be able to do something that you've always dreamt about doing, to have an impact on your life and somebody else's life, because you can't change the past, but you certainly can change the future with your actions and your habits and the things that you want to do. And, again, we talk about, hey, information is not the key, not the magic key, not the magic formula for success. Because if it was, we'd all be happy and successful because there's information at our fingertips. There's something else. And, on this channel, we're trying to drill down on what it is. And there's a lot of books out there, Stephen Covey, Tony Robbins, the list goes on of all, the people out there that are the thought leaders in terms of transformation and, successful and happy lives. But at the end of the day, those people haven't reached everybody. And that was kind of my motivation on building this channel. So, I kept doubting myself. Do I have enough of a message? Do I have enough of an impact to try to help enough people and do this kind of stuff, to be able to get out there and to social media and to presenting and public speaking? Is there enough? Do I have enough to be able to help somebody? And what I had to really rationalize is I had all those great leaders that are out there and also precluded. They haven't reached everybody. Everybody connects to a message that either hits them or doesn't. And so, then my mindset went to, well, then my job is to go find the person that needs my message. And so this has just been a process of trying to really clarify what our message needs to be. And that's something that I think that's in process for this platform. And so, what is that paradigm shift for somebody? Obviously, it's going to be different for everybody in terms of their past experiences and the messages. And, we talk about the power of the subconscious mind, and, we run off of underlying subconscious programs. There's so many things that we do on autopilot that we don't even think about that we do that, go backwards in time of where these programs came from, from our childhood, from school, from our parents. All these things get mixed up into, who we are in terms of our personality and our traits and character and all these things. But it doesn't mean that who you are today isn't somebody that you can't alter or adjust to become the person that you want to become. And so we talk about habits and the 2-minute rule, and again, the power of the subconscious brain. How do you harness that power to be able to help you reach your goals? And we talk about the analogy of, hey, when you have a long day at work and you drive home and you may be weaving in and out of traffic on the telephone and having to stop by the drive-through or the grocery store to pick up something, and next thing you know, you arrive home safely without consciously thinking about those directions, operating a 2,000-pound vehicle. Well, how does that happen? Again, that's that underlying program that we operate off of from our subconscious brain, because we've done that drive a number of times. And so now we've programmed it into this underlying mechanism to be able to operate without consciously thinking about it. And so how can we utilize that force to help us reach our goals? Well, that's something that we talk about a lot on other platforms, and some of the coaching calls that we do, ad hoc, not yet formalized, but some of the things that we do, with our clients. So then what, right? That's the question. How can we, as a group, as a platform, as a society, help the next person? Obviously, somebody that's struggling, the whole mantra of, hey, they have to hit rock bottom, before they're going to be able to help themselves. You can't help them; they have to help themselves. So that there's definitely truth to that, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be sharing a message or trying to ask the right questions. Because when you ask questions to somebody, it gives them an opportunity to be able to receive the information in a different way than just telling somebody. When you ask somebody questions, it's an opportunity to be able to let that person, ponder and think and try to be able to address the information at that point in time. And so, trying to translate or trying to, help somebody figure things out, that's what this channel is all about. And that's what we're trying to be able to do. So back to that person, right? Back to the person who is barely getting by, trying to get ahead. And, we talk about side hustles and trying to figure out ways to be able to generate more income and to be able to then accelerate their path, save money, and then invest to start building that lane, a train down the lane of building wealth. And so what I believe is that if somebody has the vision and the goal and the drive and the passion to be able to build their own, wealth and to basically build their own path and get out of the rat race, and instead of building someone else's fortune, which building someone else's fortune is, hey, you know what, I'm going to work in my company and, plow into my 401k and retire off my 401k and Social Security, which is perfectly fine. If you do that, that's great. But that's not what this platform is built for. We're trying to help that person, take themselves out of the requirement of needing a job at some point down the road. And we're trying to be able to build a pathway to building something for themselves on top of those other things that are out there to be able to do, such as a 401k, which I heavily do myself and encourage. So I'm talking about this being on top of that. So I believe that if somebody wants to get ahead and build the opportunity to not rely on a retirement and rely on a job, that if you purchase four homes over a period of 10 years, that you're going to be well on your way to building a massive amount of wealth. Because if you can get there, the sky's the limit from that point. You're talking about some of the tax strategies that come into play and start learning this stuff. And, some of the best players in real estate are using other people's money. And they're, especially when you talk about the inventory shortage, there is a need for housing. There's a need for more development. And so the housing market, it's only going to continue to grow and to become more important, in my opinion, as time evolves. And over the long term, values, will go up. You're going to have your short term blips, but long term, 20, 30 years on the road, values will always go up. And you look at every recession, the last 100 and whatever years, housing has always either stayed flat or has gone up, except for 2008, which the recession was caused by the housing issues. So it's, in that case, unique. This is also right now a current environment in which there's a lot of uncertainties with the massive amount of debt that was built from the Fed printing money. And so you've got a lot of cash out there in the markets, and now things are tightening. And so, are these prices, are they obtainable to be able to be stable? Are these prices real? And that's a question that nobody knows, but the inventory is still tight. So, but at the end of the day, when you talk about trying to build this opportunity, build this lane of purchasing real estate over time, it's very difficult to do that if you're just working your 9-to-5 job, and I've got twin boys that are 3 years old, and I'm literally here doing this. It's past 10 o'clock. And I'm not saying that everybody needs to do this type of stuff and work crazy hours, but my why is strong enough that the how figures itself out. That this is something that I'm choosing to do because I want to do it, right? But I've shared this on other platforms, myself, because this podcast has only been in reality since September. And in June, I came to a point where I was going to start to build, more stuff. And, I started implementing what James Clear, talks about in his book, Atomic Habits, the 2-minute rule. I have a long day and get up with the kids, go to work, be done by 5, help out. My wife's working, she's a counselor. She sees clients, at different times of the day. So 5 o'clock, that's daddy duty. It's dinner, it's playtime, it's bath, it's nighttime. And by 8:30 is what I'm typically getting done. So then it's like, okay, I'm exhausted. The last thing that I want to do is log back in and turn the brain back on in that fashion. Even though I've got stuff I need to get done to be able to make these other things a reality. Because, the stuff that I'm doing with this platform is not, necessarily my job. This is a side thing that I do. So the time that I spend on it is typically outside of, normal work hours. So I turn on a timer, 2 minutes. boom, worked that one day, and then stopped. Because in the book it says 2 minutes and just turn it off. And so I stopped. That was the most uncomfortable thing that I could have done, was to turn on my computer, literally do like 1.5 things. Because my computer in Citrix, it probably took 5 minutes to log in, which I didn't count that. And then I'm in my computer, operation status, turn on the timer for 2 minutes, worked on like 1.5 things, and then turned it off. That was literally one of the most uncomfortable things I could have done. But I did it. I followed the book and I did it. And then I did it again and I did it again. And you know what? Like most of those days, I would work for 10 minutes or 20 minutes or 30 minutes. But every single day I turn on the 2-minute timer. And it's like, okay, am I going to keep going or not? And within about 2 weeks, I was hitting a stride, and I was looking forward to logging back in for a little bit of time. Every single day, it wasn't, an hour or two. It literally could have been 10 minutes, 20 minutes just to get a couple things done. And then just that dopamine kick of when you check off that box on your checklist, that's a little dopamine kick, utilizing that type of internal biology of how our brains work with neurotransmitters and blah, 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 blah. Literally like got into a groove, and it wasn't even challenging. There was no anxiety or stress of logging back in. And that literally is the reason this channel exists, because this has been on my mind for 5 years. And that pain of other things that were going on in my life got me to this point and, pushed me over the edge. And so the reason I share that is that if somebody does have the goal and the vision to build something on top of what they're already doing, you may already be working 2 jobs and a side hustle. So my challenge, that person that I'm talking to on the other side, that, hey, we're putting a plan together to save money to be able to purchase a home at some point down the road, is to, okay, if you're already expending the energy on a side hustle or a second job or whatever it is, there's not much more you can do. So at that point in time, it's okay, do I find something that can pay more money, or do I find a way to be able to cut some costs so that my side hustle is literally just gravy. It's green. It's in the green. It's going straight into savings. And when you can do that and get that momentum and see those successes start to build over time, that's when things get interesting. That's when it gets fun. You can actually start to stack your actions and start to gain some traction. Not saying it's easy, but again, when your why is strong enough, the how figures itself out. There was somebody that I helped purchase a house a couple years back that they were paying rent, and the only option they had was to move back with their parents. And they did it. They didn't want to do it, but they did it because they saw the bigger vision, and without that vision of where they wanted to go or could go and having those conversations, they never would have gone down that path. They would have just kept going with what they're doing and not being able to save money. And so, it's just very, very interesting when we talk about, someone's why, because someone's why ends up telling you a lot about what they do, how they do it, and how long they do it. Because at the end of the day, doing something for a long period of time, getting traction, having those little actions compound. Those are the things, doing the little things, the mundane things, the things that are easy to do, but also easy not to do. Those are the things that push somebody to be able to get to the next level. So we're going to end it here. And hopefully this was somewhat helpful on your journey. And if you're listening to if you're listening this late in this episode, I definitely encourage you, if you have any ideas on topics to talk about, if you have any feedback, you can message us on Instagram, strive for 25 _ is where you can find us on Instagram. So you can message me there if you have any ideas, questions, feedback, or maybe somebody that wants to share their story that's got a side hustle that they want to share. We definitely will encourage that feedback as well. All right. Take care.